Welcome to Conversate, a podcast where we engage in conversation. And in today's episode, I, Kevin, am sitting down with Marcus Huff, our Director of Youth and Campus Ministry, just before he heads out on sabbatical to talk about where we're at right now as a church, which is in the book of 1 Peter, Peter, the Apostle of Hope. And that's what our conversation today centers around, that concept of hope. What is hope? What is it based on? Is it reliable? And what kinds of things do we put our hopes in? We'll get into all of these topics as we think about our own stories and the own hopes that we've had, and the challenge of basing or founding our hopes in the one who has promised to be with us. As always, we hope as you listen to this podcast, you find something that you can take away and start your own spiritual conversation with somebody else. And as always, we hope you enjoy it.
Ooh.
Hello.
That was a good ting.
Yeah, it had like some resonance to it.
A little gravitas.
Yeah. And I like what you got going on in there. You got a
little tea action.
Yeah, some steeping. What's steeping in there?
Couldn't tell you. Something good.
Just picked randomly from the bin of teas?
No, I think it's like stress ease.
Oh, yeah.
But I like the flavor of it. It's just soothing, relaxing. So I've had enough coffee today, so I figured it was time to...
How much coffee for you is enough coffee?
I've had probably 3 cups.
Mm-hmm.
I had 1 or 2 at home, and then 1 here.
Yeah, I'm a 2-cup guy. I mean, I'll do 3 cups sometimes.
Yeah.
But for me, that's typically, I've already crossed the threshold of what would have been useful, and I'll pay for it at some point.
Yeah.
With a headache.
Usually then, like, you get like the 2:30 slump at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had many different traditions. Some are good, and some are not so good. But
sure. Yeah.
anyways.
This is the newest iteration.
I have a low caffeine afternoon one that it's just enough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's like a mushroom coffee in the afternoon.
Oh,
so,
gotcha. So you have like, today you're going...
It sounds pretty intense, but yeah.
Is it Organo Gold?
No. Everyday dose.
Everyday dose.
So I gave up coffee for a little while.
I remember that.
So it was really good.
Recently, right?
Yeah, fairly. Yeah.
Like 2026?
Not this year.
It was last year.
No,
okay.
Yeah. But that was good.
Thing.
I would think I was, after being sick for like 4 or 5 days, I'd already come out of it. I couldn't tell if it was like the fever or the caffeine lull of the headaches.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should, bring my levels back down because caffeine stays in your system for 30 days.
30 days?
Fun stuff to know,
Man.
So it stops working. You can keep going more and more, but it doesn't do anything.
Like it's got to die off. That's faster than that, but it just kind of lives.
More cortisol in your body. It's all it creates.
Sure. So I get nervous, Marcus, about learning information like that.
Yeah.
My wife recently watched a documentary. I'm going to tell you the details, what it was about, but I can tell you this. Things are changing on the home front. And it's funny because even she has like she's the one activating the change based on, what she has witnessed.
Okay.
But she also is like frustrated by that dynamic of like learning the truth about things.
Uh-huh.
Sort of like the antithesis of ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, which is, basically a way of saying, you can be dumb about your existence and by so doing avoid a certain degree of pain.
True.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I understand it, that's sort of what ignorance is bliss means.
Well, then the next level then too, at our age and more senior ages than ours, it's like I wasn't sick until I went to the doctor mentality as well, which is ignorance is bliss projected to the next level of like going, I have stuff I should actually deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually already dealing with them in not a great way, but did you know if you'd made these changes, you could actually deal with them in a better way?
Right.
So,
which is, exactly. So this is like the beauty of truth.
Right.
Is like, initially, the first piece, it hurts because you had bliss before it. You had at least ignorance, and that was easier in some respects than knowing reality.
Right.
And you get exposed to truth. Oh, that hurts. I don't want to face that. But when I do, that's sort of I think the hopeful trajectory of truth is like if I orient myself to it, it will actually lead to, it might be an existence that's a little bit harder in terms of the upkeep. Like there's some effort involved, it's like to do the things, but it does lead me to a place of, maybe better stasis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but change is hard. I think the idea of changing a rhythm or habit we're rather stick with what we know, even if we know it's not good for us, and that rhythm versus the energy it takes to do something different than what we're doing.
Yeah.
We love consistency. We love comfort. Even if comfort is discomfort, we kind of stick in that routine. Like going
100%.
You need a new mattress. I don't want to go through the whole process of trying to figure that out. I'll just deal with it. I'll sleep on the other side. I'll rotate it.
Mm-hmm. I'll ignore it. I'll
ignore it. Or
how I feel.
That's just my cross to bear. And that's what I'll do. Versus going, no, it's 40 years old and half your family's already slept on it, so I should get a new mattress.
The things I don't want to think about. Yes.
I inherited this family back issue. It's genetics. Like, no, it was the family mattress. You slept on the same mattress for years. But anyways.
So I love this. This is such a great setup, honestly. Enter into the conversation the resurrection of Jesus, right? Because for these followers of Jesus, they've been going around with him for, 3.5 years, right? I mean, they have upended their life.
Yeah.
And they've been listening to this guy who says he is the truth, right? And so he's saying lots of challenging things that are causing them to face uncomfortable realities, thinking particularly here of Peter.
Yeah.
Let's zone in on him since he's the guy writing the book we're reading in this season. And it's, the week of Jesus' death. Jesus is saying some pretty uncomfortable things to Peter that he doesn't want to accept. But fast forward then to the cross, the resurrection, the empty tomb, and that whole thing upended or shifted dramatically the way in which the disciples, the Jewish people, thought the world even worked.
Right.
I mean, it was like the shift into a new reality in the most significant way possible. Mm-hmm. But it left the challenge of sort of like, yeah, okay, how do I got to redo everything. I got to reconstruct, in some sense, my whole idea of what life is even about.
Right. I mean, even that whole week, you go back up to Palm Sunday, and all of a sudden, like, hey, we're actually we picked the right rabbi. The right rabbi picked us, and more so in the case of our disciples. But he's coming in. That's a weird choice of an animal. This is different, but they're all about it and they're excited. And then you get to the end of the week, and things start changing. I walked through this with the youth on Sunday. And just trying to embody what just happened and how crazy this all is if you're a disciple. We have a tradition of sharing highs and lows and what's going on in each other's week. I go, what do you think what the high and low was for the Holy Week for the disciples, what's going on?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of resolution even in that space. Mm-hmm. Even showing up to the empty tomb, it's not until they again get to experience the person of Jesus in the locked room. Because even at the empty tomb, their life is like, oh no, do we pick the wrong team? What's going on? They're locked in a room afraid that they're going to be arrested. The same thing's going to happen to them. Mm-hmm. And that's until Jesus shows up. Because all of a sudden, the crowds change. He's taking this rite of Passover and the script for that meal. And then all of a sudden he's inserting himself in it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, this is weird. What's going on? Everything is changing. Mm-hmm. And then to the point where going, I can't ignore this.
Yeah.
Even Thomas in that whole thing, our culture alludes to him as a doubting Thomas, but I think it's such a relational Thomas. Mm-hmm. And the fact of his engagement and going this group of guys and saying, hey, we saw Jesus. Yeah, right. Come on. Come on. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm doubting you, but I don't know if my friends said I saw this supernatural experience happen. I would just believe them after everything that just happened.
Right.
It's a pretty realistic response, in all honesty.
Yeah.
And then seeing what's happening. And then again, he engages with the person of Jesus, this relational God that invites him in. He's not being passive aggressive, and his responses are blessed are those who don't see, but just encouraging for foreshadowing what's coming up.
Yeah.
Even Peter then starts off the 1 Peter 1 connects with that same message that Jesus shares with Thomas is then reflected. Peter takes that soundbite, reapplies it right then in the beginning of that chapter. Yep. And with this whole group of people that weren't in that room, didn't have that experience, and shares that blessing, this benediction almost on these next gen Christians experiencing this way of Jesus. And it was because Thomas said, hey, I need to see this to believe it. And Jesus shows up relationally in that space and says, come check it out. Here it is. It's very much I don't know. I go to Genesis quite often, back to the garden, but after the fall, God shows up in in the garden, walking among them, saying, "Where are you?" He's a relational God, and saying, "Let's engage. Let's talk through this. Let's experience this." He doesn't kind of go, "Why'd you doubt me? What'd you do?" Like,
yeah,
it's inviting in. So
I'd be curious to know from the panel of high schoolers, what was the low that they located, and maybe there was a couple different ones. I don't know, but for that Holy Week.
They're stereotypical high schoolers. In fact, I didn't give any responses, but it was all right.
Just dead stares.
We had a lot of conversation before.
Stare. Yeah, this is a clue. Dead. Got it.
It's almost like, but when you filter through, like, what would you pick as a low? I don't know. There's a lot. We went into like the brutality of like the floggings and everything that, like, how Jesus was basically kept on like life support and the edge of his life for how long, and the tension of that. And we were more so wrestling with, why don't we have an emotional response or engagement when we read this and stay so flat within it? But you could pick lots of lows in there pretty easily in that whole narrative.
Well, and the reason I ask it is just thinking about the idea of hope, right? So that was kind of the theme Sunday, and his I think, this is Peter. I didn't know this, but he's called like the disciple or the apostle of hope.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a new name for me, for Peter.
Yeah.
But this idea of hope, and hope is something that is in connection to your expectations, right? So thinking again of that whole Holy Week and the Palm Sunday to Good Friday narrative, like the disciples do have a particular hope in connection to their expectation of who Jesus is. So they, imagine him to do or be something, but then when he dies on that cross, like, it's very clear from how the story goes and kind of their comments, that was not a part of their expectation at all.
Right.
So their hope is sort of shattered. Whatever that hope in particular looked like, whether they thought he was going to be this, military Messiah to come and overthrow Rome, and then he didn't, or if they thought that he was, maybe they really sensed kind of the divinity of this person, and that, so like, even if they captured him, there's no way he could die,
Right.
Whatever the expectation was, it was shattered, and then they were, sulking and sad and afraid for the same thing to happen to them. Yeah.
I mean, it's a wild ride that they go through the whole thing too, and hope, expectation, and it all gets shaken up quite a bit in that Holy Week narrative. But I mean, the disciples' engagement is quite interesting, because, like, especially take Peter, he'll one moment say, "Hey, you are the Christ, the Son of God," and then a handful of verses later, Jesus is rebuking him and saying, "Stand behind me," because he gets it all off. It's like, I was thinking about this text this morning, going like, I think breaking down the word hope, is it an active thing? Is it passive? What deteriorates hope? Is it a failed expectation? Because then, is that really hope, or is this just hoping, longing for something selfishly? Because a lot of time our expectations and hope are intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're for our own kind of benefit of that as well. But then also you go from Palm Sunday and raising palm branches and the celebrations and the cries, and then you go 4 days later and they're saying crucify him. This quick kind of narrative shift within it. And I was like, hope is easily deteriorated by fear, change expectations. I mean, the crowd doesn't know anything different. This thing still has happened, but they're fearful of the Pharisees, their access to the temple being rejected, all these kind of things, and going like, we'll pivot. Like, how does one have a deep anchored hope in something that you hold on to? I mean, I love that you brought up Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, because he wrestles with that. How do you hold on to hope that isn't situational, isn't overly idealistic or something like that? Because I mean, at some point, going like, we can have kind of flimsy hopes created, that are tissue paper thin. But I mean, you're living in concentration camp, you're experiencing the worst, starvation, death is all around you, beatings, family, all kinds of stuff like that. At any moment, you can be like, this doesn't really hold much water. And I sure come to that situation as well, too. So,
and that's, I think, part of what he was exposing, Dr. Frankl, is that everybody hopes, but it's a question of what is it that you're hoping in, and is it circumstantial? Is it the kind of thing? So you're talking about being anchored to something that's deeper or bigger or stronger than your circumstances. And but the reality is, I think we all we have a myriad of hopes.
Right.
You know, it's not like you have one hope. I suppose in that myriad of hopes, you do have one. Like everybody got one at the top of the list, but you got a handful. And so we experience disappointment, you know. So I hope that I get a good night's sleep tonight.
Yeah,
that'd be great, you know. And I have some influence in that, you know. So some of that's on me to fulfill that hopeful expectation. It's like, do I really hope for it?
Well, set yourself up well.
Exactly. But then there are other pieces that can come into play. Kids waking up. We've had sickness at the house last few weeks, so dealing with that's been disruptive on that side. And so my hope might get washed away. You know, I might have had this expectation. It doesn't get fulfilled. And then I'm disappointed.
Right.
And so it's we've got hopes kind of all over the place, but what's at the top of the list? What is the most important hope that you have? And it can be circumstantial is the thing. Mm-hmm. And maybe for a lot of people, it is, you know, when I think of, I'll just use myself as an example. When I go back to high school, Kevin.
Okay.
I can tell you was at the top of that. There's a couple things rivaling for the top of high school Kevin's hopes, the actual practical hope that Kevin had. But I know one of them for sure was romantic.
Okay.
I saw my high school buddies with girlfriends, and I said, why not me?
Yeah.
I'm so alone.
Right.
If only I had that. Then life would be, you know, whatever. And that's, you know, maybe one way to kind of locate what your ultimate hope is. If I had this, if I had that, if that's the thing I keep saying, that would be the game changer. That would shift everything.
Yeah.
I just heard, I think it was on Rogan's podcast, something like this. But there was a conversation about technology, and it was this idea about if we just get these kind of pieces line up, then society is going to be great. Everything's going to kind of flow, you know. So it's a hope. Now, it may not be their ultimate hope. Yeah. I can't speak for them, but I can speak for me in high school. And that was the thing driving me. And so then when it wasn't fulfilled, or when it was actually fulfilled, but then it didn't live up to what my expectation of it would be, it was really difficult. It was damaging. Yeah. You kind of come to the end of yourself in a way, if your hope is based on something circumstantial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting quote. So you take Viktor Frankl later on, and I think the image you even used on Sunday was over 12 million copies sold.
Oh, sure.
But he's quoted backwards afterwards, looking at that and the number of books sold, and he goes, he was almost depressive in the response of saying, it's actually quite sad how many copies this is sold, for how telling it is how many people are searching for meaning in their life, that they're looking for a resource in that. But I think a lot of stuff is orientated that way in advertising and positioning us and stuff like that, and laying that all out. That circumstantial narrative made me think of something I learned back in Old Testament class too, is the tension because of, if this happens, then I'll do this, versus because, therefore, ontological versus teleological narratives in that space. And so ideally our hope is more anchored in, because Jesus died and rose from the dead. Yeah. Therefore, I have this lasting hope, not if this all lines up, if these 5 things happen, culture set up well, then we'll be good to go. I have a hope in that. And that's more so how our structural framework works in most of things. All right, I know if I get to bed on a good time, if I don't drink coffee too late in the day, if my kids don't wake up, if this doesn't happen, if blah, 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 then I'll have a good night's sleep, versus, well, because of the situation, I can rest in God. I may not get good earthly sleep, but I can rest in that, and my source and energy comes from something else. And, you know, it changes and shifts in our structure. It's maybe sometimes our hope is more 30,000 feet above it than being able to control
the little pieces,
something easy here.
Well, and let me come back to those. Use 2 really big words in there.
Yeah,
ontological and teleological, and so let's break down those words real quick, because these 2 words basically, and kind of the distinction you're making, is that it is a real clear difference between how we commonly use the word hope in the same way as like expectation. It's like something in the future that I don't know whether or not it's going to happen.
If I work hard enough, therefore this thing could possibly happen.
Yeah, it's like it's a possibility. Yeah. Versus biblical hope is actually different, and but those two words kind of bring it out. So the ontological one, I actually don't really know what the word I personally I don't know the etymology of that word, but it's kind of that would be the thing that's already occurred. Right? Is that the ontological one? It's like it exists, therefore now this. Versus I do know the etymology of teleological, and I wanted to hone in on it because it actually, that word, not that English word, but the Greek word behind it, the word telos, shows up in the first little section of Peter that we read on Sunday. And so telos is it's the Greek word that's pointing to the future. It's saying that forward-looking thing, kind of the goal or the outcome. And that's what Peter, he does talk a lot in that first section about a future. He talks about this thing being revealed in the last day and the outcome of your faith. And that's actually where that word telos shows up, the telos of your faith, the goal of your faith. However, when he says, when he talks about this living hope, he doesn't root it in, hey, you've got this living hope because you're going to be resurrected. He doesn't say, you've got this thing to look forward to because you one day will resurrect. No, he says, you have this living hope through the resurrection of, and then he looks backward 30 years to what's already happened, to Jesus. So he's saying, there is this future thing, but it's not something that you're wondering, is it going to happen? Or wishing that it will happen. It's something that you're counting on happening. That's biblical hope. So biblical hope is the trust that this future thing is certain, like it's yours, but because of that thing that's already occurred, which for Peter is the resurrection of Jesus. So that, looking back to Jesus' resurrection, becomes the foundation. And so this, getting back to our conversation about circumstance with hope. So many of the hopes we have are circumstantial, and they can shift and move. And the challenge for a lot of us, this would be the challenge for high school, Kevin, is you don't know how watery they are until you have it. So there's a lot of people, I think, who I did this as well as a young person. I set my hope on, a certain income level. Just the idea of having riches, having wealth. And the real challenge is I'm never probably going to have that amount in my life that I wished or dreamed of. And so it's kind of this carrot dangling, and I'll never actually know if it's going to fulfill me. Now, this is where it's helpful to look at. You can find people who have the things that you're thinking you need or want, and look at the outcome of their life. And use that as a case example to tell you whether that actually is a real living hope. Right? And so Bryant actually Weathers in the Bible class on Sunday, I hadn't thought of it this way, but he put it really well, which is, so for all of us, we've got these things in our life that are meaningful, and that we hope for, which may include an income piece. It may include a status piece. It may include family and children and things like this. But all of us will ultimately lose those. We just lose them over the long span of our life. Dr. Frankl experienced that with his peers in a condensed way. They were losing all the same things, but he sort of saw it sped up. And so he could kind of see the effect of what happens when that's where your hope is, and then they go. Right? And then Brian said, and that was, 3 years for Dr. Frankl, but for Jesus, it actually was a week in a sense. Going back to that Holy Week. All of the things that were the most meaningful to Jesus, like loyal friends, the love of the Father, his status as a rabbi, in the area with pretty good rapport, Because all of it gets lost in a week's time. And yet, Jesus doesn't lose hope. He's still rooted in what he's accomplishing, in something, he's rooted in something beyond all of those pieces falling apart, right? Like he still goes to the cross even though Judas betrays him. He still goes there even though Peter denies him. He still goes there even though he sees his mom weeping, outside of it.
Yeah, as you say that too, I see that whole narrative laying out really well in that. I wonder if he loses a sense of hope from a very humanistic engagement piece and just being fully human as well too. So like I think of him as a son and a father, that relationship there too. He's hoping for deliverance. He knows what he needs to do. He has that whole engagement. He spends time praying in blood that this cup will be taken from me in this whole space too. And he's experiencing this excruciating pain, this horrific death. And even in that one moment, like he's there and going like, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's sitting in there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is there a sense of hopelessness? Does that change the character of God in any way? I don't think so. It's not a sin by any means whatsoever, but like going like, he has a really excruciating experience where, he's still relying on his dad, his father, to show up and be there. And he does in crazy, amazing ways through, brings him back from hell, like that whole deliverance in that too. Yeah. And so sometimes, like you said, like our youthfulness, we forget some of those opportunities, what that looks like. Not moving away from the narrative of Jesus as that example too, but just about our own lives too. There's a lot of great wisdom of talking to other people. A lot of the things that we need to do, a lot of people put their hope in this program or with this product or this thing. And generational wisdom says, actually, if you just have better habits, if you drink more water, eat more, whole foods, move your body regularly, get good sleep, get some sunlight, you're good to go.
Like the latest powder, supplement, product is probably not the thing that's going to like radically change your existence.
Right. Sure. Do more stuff to get you outside and eat stuff at the original source, and that's better than everything going through a bunch of other stuff in your life in that way too. Like go for a hike versus have this procedure done, or like go do like all these kinds of things is a different anchoring within all that too. So it's interesting how we have our hope and how we get that, and like the wisdom of the people sharing what to do. But I think we're wired after the fall in such a way that, and culturally too, we have this embraced narrative pushed and thrust upon us that if we just work better, the results, our goal will happen in that way. Yeah. And so I think biblical foundations are so hard to focus on sometimes because they're almost so simple. Just like hoping and putting into practice, living in the simplicity of what's going on. Versus the complexity. I'd rather try to keep 3,000 rules together than just resting in God's promise and living it out. And living because therefore I get to live in this way, going like, it's hard to just accept. It's hard to rest in that space. Yeah. But if I can keep moving the needle, if I can keep working those things, that'll keep it in the forefront. I'd rather live into it, and this it's more justifiable that way, or more approachable. But anyways, that's another podcast. Probably.
No, I hear you though. I think it's like a fine line in the sense of, like how do you work out of the rest that God gives? When you were talking about the two examples there of work, especially if you were to happen to see all of your effort in whatever field you were in, right? All the work you were doing for some particular project, it all for some reason crumbled to the ground, right? If your hope was kind of in your participation in that, like the fruit of you, that's going to be frustrating for anybody, regardless of where your hope is. Like it's still going to be frustrating. But if you were really hoping for that, you're going to be distraught about that. Versus, and this I think goes back to the Psalm 22, kind of the my God piece from Jesus. It's sort of like what's in front of me is so disturbing, I don't even know how to process it. But you still are, right? Like you still are my God. Yeah. You're still here. I don't understand what's in front of me, but I got you. I know that. Like you're here. So help me adjust, pivot, reorient myself to things as they actually are. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, as we kind of round out our time here, Marcus. Yeah. What is something you think or you see people hoping in? And let's two different tracks. You can pick your poison. What's something you see people hoping in that might be a wedge to their faith, or like a distraction from their faith? Or what's something you see Christians I'm coming back to your conversation with the high schoolers about the biblical narrative, and it maybe falling flat. So what's something you see people hoping in that might be a wedge or a distraction from their faith? Or what's something you see people hoping in precisely connected to their faith, but feeling like the hope isn't met? Big question to round it out.
Yeah, this is the point where I pause to think, and we edit out the pause and come back to it. So
I'm going to make Slurpee sounds.
Are you? All right. My two, I guess the two that pop in my head right away would be like hoping for, as a father with young kids, sometimes we hope for the next season of life where there's more rest, or there's, get through this sickness versus just sitting in that season where we get to be fully present with our kids in a time of ick, but they cling to us in a way that we sometimes can't get a hug, later on in the healthy weeks, or they're too busy running around, or in high school they won't be around. Like some of those narratives. So sometimes I see that, or after the surgery, or after this thing, or I'll prioritize my spouse when we have more space, or the kids are out of the house, and so I think that is detrimental in a lot of ways, or that's been a generational narrative too, that, after this thing happens, we'll get back to church, or when this season's done, or life slows down, we're a slave to our things around us, versus us having any kind of decision-making or mastery over that, that the chaos controls us, versus us disciplining our schedules, our priorities, our commitments to align with something would be the first thing.
I like that.
And then the hopelessness, other option too, is I think when we know all this stuff about God, but then when we're given the opportunities to fully trust and put it into practice, much like the disciples are in that narrative, I think that's the approachableness of them as well too, going like, when stuff hits the fan, God, you're still God. Versus, why'd someone die? Why did you take this happen? Or why did illness happen? Or this wasn't what you're supposed to be, a good God, and this isn't good right now. Or, a God of comfort, but I feel really uncomfortable. Like, you're pointing out all these things right now that I don't like being pointed out right now in this season. So we hope in things, but are afraid to put the work in, or trusting that on the other side of that, it's going to be hard, and maybe it's going to be better. It's like having to deal with the caffeine withdrawal headaches to get on the other side and going, hey, you know what? I actually have more energy right now drinking water in the morning than I do having coffee and just slugging through life. But I had to go through a wall of dealing with those things, or weaning things off, or changing my habits and my rhythms, and drinking a cold glass of, water versus a nice, comfortable, warm cup of coffee in the morning, and some of those things too. So, those are the two things that popped in my head right away when I think about it. So, yeah,
no, I love it. And I think that's a great place to kind of rest in for us, is the way I heard those intertwine is, so the first one being, it's kind of like hope in the future, like hope, but kind of an ambiguous future, but just like somehow getting forward in time is going to resolve the challenges I'm facing today. I just kind of need to get to the next, whatever that thing is I'm in the middle of. I need to get to the next. And the way I heard that intertwine with our faith piece is, the move seems to be something like, no, what does it look like for me to actually face the very thing I'm right in the middle of? Not looking to just the next season and telling myself that's going to be better. But what does it look like for me to actually look like right where I am with God, or maybe looking at God in the middle of it and saying, like, I'm here, God, and I don't like, maybe being honest, right? I don't like this or this about what's going on right now, but this is where you have me.
Right.
And so kind of the prayer being, God, can you help me to face where it is right now I am?
You get a lot of that in the Psalms of David and the other writers too, in that space of wrestling with God and like just fully lamenting. But usually they come back towards it in the middle of the end and say, "But you are God. I will hope in you."
Yeah. Yes.
Life is all falling apart.
Yes.
My enemies are taking me out. I hope that you destroy them.
Yeah.
But you are God, and I will hope. I will trust. I will be anchored there. So if you're looking for biblical affirmament, put that in your devotional life. Read a psalm a morning. Walk through it.
Yeah.
See that lived out. Help it rewire your thought process, your movements, your faith engagement as we all deal with stuff.
Absolutely.
Life nonstop.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of it, I would even recommend Psalm 22. Go to the same one Jesus quoted. You'll see that same trajectory that Marcus is talking about.
Cool.
Well, appreciate it, man. Good chatting with you. And here's to hoping for the right things.
Sounds good, man.
We'll see ya.